Hi, welcome to So You Want to Learn Public Speaking, and today I'll be talking about one of the most important skills that you definitely need in your life, which is public speaking. So to go over a little bit of a summary is that I'm going to go over three things. So first of all, a speaker's mindset. Second is the delivery of your speech. And the third is how to do a TEDx talk. And that one I'm really excited for, but I'm excited for all of them. So to give a little bit introduction, so hi everyone, I'm Vivian. I'm currently a grade 11 student based at Vancouver, BC. I founded Youth with BC, which is dedicated towards helping students transition to post-secondary and give volunteer opportunities. And I'm also doing public speaking, and I did 3 TEDx talks. And a fun fact is that I love ice cream. So I know that public speaking can suck, especially when at least these 3 reasons happen. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why public speaking suck, but it's definitely when you don't know how to prepare yourself and then you mess up. The second one is when you suddenly forget how to speak properly. And the third one is when you don't know how to talk about what exactly you're going to talk about, which is the worst. And actually, people are more scared of public speaking than deaf, which kind of speaks a lot about the fear of public speaking. And this actually used to be me. And I want to point out that it's okay to feel scared. And a lot of people, even professional speakers, get really scared and nervous too when they present. And some of them even make mistakes. Like I remember one time I forgot the rest of my speech and I just blanked out and then I just had to carry on. And I'll be talking later about how to have a mindset and to try to deal with those mistakes. But I want to point out that the difference is how speakers approach their mindset and then adapt to the situation at hand. And of course, it's not going to be the end of the world. Like you're not going to die after a speech, but instead, it's a path of improvement. So we're here to talk about how you can become a better speaker. So the first one is, what exactly are you scared of? I mean, you're scared of a lot of things. So when you have the jitters, butterflies in your stomach, when your palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, special Eminem song. And even though we don't want to feel this, sometimes we can't help but do so. Like I used to feel that way, especially I did have a lot of stage anxiety. But I want to say that how you think before going on a stage and while you're on the stage is very important for growing as a speaker. Because if it's not up to par, when you have one tiny mistake, it becomes a fiasco because it slowly builds up. So it has that snowball effect where you constantly have thoughts run your head, like everyone's judging me. What if I fail? I suck at speaking, or oh shoot, I made a mistake. And I want to be honest that there's no black and white situation. So a little nervousness actually doesn't hurt because it helps you keep awake and you can channel it positively by saying, okay, this is motivating me to do better. But if you have way too much, that's when you need to step in and say, okay, I know I'm scared, but I got to take control of myself. And I want to point out a little thing. I know that practice makes perfect. You heard it a lot. I also heard it a lot. But sometimes practice doesn't make perfect when you're speaking, because when you practice a mistake a bunch of times, it won't really make you get things right. So you need to fix it so you can practice it perfectly, then it can be perfect. So if you're wondering, how the heck am I going to scare away my fears? So if we need to calm down, there's some tips, like there's a general way of doing so, but find your own way on how you can calm down. So definitely the first one that worked for me was square breathing. So you breathe in slowly, hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out, and then hold for 4 seconds and repeat. Second one, you could do it in front of a mirror to yourself, or you could do it at the wall, or just anywhere. Just think and say to yourself, like, I got this. It's okay to feel scared. I can succeed. It's okay to make a mistake. The third one, it does help. You can do it somewhere in the mirror. For example, hands on your hips, and then you roll back your shoulders, and you just stand there for like a minute or a couple of minutes. And when you have a power pose that shows assertiveness, it calms your body down and says, oh, okay, I feel safe. And that's when you feel that your fear is diminishing. The last one is that to not compare yourself or put yourself down a lot of times. It can be hard if there's like other speakers who are better than you, but you still have your strengths, and the weaknesses are just things that you need to work on. They are not liabilities or setbacks. There are future goals that you want to work on. And now we're going to talk about the second part of having your mindset. And when you prepare for your speech, it definitely makes you feel more confident in yourself. And like I said, it's all about the learning and the growth instead of focusing on your mistakes and your insecurities. So the first one is definitely you have to take action. So you can't just say, oh, I'm just going to think about how I'm okay. But instead, try to take a little bit more initiative and a little bit more steps, like visualizing yourself, repeating a mantra to yourself, doing a variety of things to help you be less fearful of speech. Second one is that you will not die. It's not the end of the world. And a lot of times our mistakes can actually seem more significant in your mind than the audience's mind. And the third one is that the audience will not judge you. Like it could feel like they're judging you because they have the resting face, but that's because they want to learn and to hear what you say. So instead, think about them and how you're giving them the gift of knowledge instead of gaining their approval that you're a good speaker. And the fourth one is a speech is not like a final exam. It's not a test, even though it feels like one, but it's an opportunity and a chance to learn. And when you do make a mistake, just choose things after the speech. It's like, okay, these are things you need to work on next time. And so dwelling on what I did wrong. For example, oh, I stuttered on this. That I was so bad at me too. Instead, you could say, next time I'll work on my stuttering. And the next part is special delivery. So definitely body language, a lot of delivery with speaking, and so on. So when you present, first impressions are very important because the first thing people see is you, and you need to pay attention to body language as well, because you need to establish that you're there on the stage, whether it's virtually or in person. So that's called a stage presence. And if you want people to listen to your message, you need to be aware of your body language as well. And if you don't have the proper body language, then you will give the wrong vibes, and it will tell people, I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting your time. You don't want that to happen. So in that case, you're literally telling people to stop listening to you. So if you do want to work on it, there's like a lot of aspects. I separate them into 8 main sections. First one, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's definitely power poses. So it's basically your posture. So opening your shoulders, standing straight, facing the audience, making some occasional hand gestures if you need to, and then you're good to go. The second one is eye contact. So it's used to make a connection with the audience. So you maintain eye contact with everyone in different areas of the audience every few seconds. If you switch it too fastly, like you switch here 1 second and then over here the next millisecond, then it can be quite confusing for people. But if you do it way too long, for example, more than 5 seconds, it can feel like a staring contest, and stare contests are really uncomfortable. Third one is hand gestures. Truth be told, I actually struggle with this a lot because I really didn't know what to do with my hands. I was like, what do I do with them? So, but they enhance your message. And a lot of times, don't use your hands all the time, but you can use them sparingly, for example, to convey emotions or describe something. You could definitely use your other body parts if you need to. For example, use this if you want to convey like something really tiny, for example. The fourth one is the movement. So when you're moving across a stage or an area, a space, definitely use it to your advantage and to capture attention. A lot of times you will need to move when asking questions or making a point from time to time, but you're not supposed to pace back and forth constantly or turn your back to the audience unless for demonstration purposes, or you cannot sway. The fourth one is facial expressions. And to make it feel more emotional, to kind of add on to the presentation, to evoke meaning and purpose in your speech. So, and for example, if you have a happy tone, make sure that you have a happy face on. And sometimes we have anger and sadness. Try to convey it through your face, in your facial expressions. Sixth one is mannerisms. A lot of times with our nervous habits, it can stray people's attention away. For example, like tapping your foot or saying filler words, for example, like like. A lot of times with avoiding these, even I struggle with this. I do use it from time to time. But what you can do is try pausing it. Like, for example, saying say I, and then you can say it after pause. A lot of times, if you do want to practice, you could film yourself and take notes. Even though watching a film of yourself can seem cringy, it does work a lot. The seventh one is breathing, which helps with talking. A lot of times, we do need to stand up straight, and when you have a slow, steady breath, you won't like run out of breath for speaking, and it can definitely reduce your stress levels when you're on stage. The last one is voice. A lot of times it's physical, so just remember. I'll be explaining a little bit more about this, but a lot of times people focus on our body language, our voices, and our tone. But a lot more is focused on the body language and our tone. And this one, voicing your speech, kind of the eighth one, I want to break it down a little bit more. So I would just want to point out, you can't just read out loud. It's very different when doing public speaking. And a lot of times we could sound a little bit monotone and kind of dead. Honestly, to me, I sounded dead inside whenever I read out loud. So the four aspects you need to pay attention to are, I call them the 4 P's. So power, pitch, pace, and pause. The first one is power. So definitely keep your speech volume loud enough so people can hear you, but don't shout because you might strain your voice and that'll be a problem later on. And sometimes you could go a little bit louder to emphasize on your points. The second one is pitch. So kind of the ups and downs of your speech. So make sure that your voice isn't like monotone, like one straight flat line, or nasally, or too up and down like a roller coaster. Sometimes you can raise your voice or lower your voice depending on the mood. And the third one is pace. So how fast or how slow you're going. So sometimes slow down to emphasize key points or to help build drama if you're telling a story, or you could speed up to relieve monotony and create excitement. The fourth one is pausing. Sometimes you could do this before and on important points for emphasizing and to give audience time to understand and absorb the information you have, because especially when it's a long speech, it could definitely help out with that. But before we talk, especially for the big day, you got to warm up our voice. Sometimes it's like, because no one wants a squeaky voice like a broken recorder on stage. That almost happened to me, but luckily I warmed up. So how do you warm up in order to prepare yourself for public speaking? First is definitely deep breaths and kind of words to warm up your lips and your tongue, like ba 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 and brrr and la 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 la, and go wee woo wee woo. Okay, it does sound like gibberish. Can sound a little bit silly if you're doing it in front of people. Definitely people will stare, but it works wonders. And sometimes it's used in singing. But if you do want to go a little bit incognito, you could sing the song "What Does the Fox Say?" I definitely recommend that one. And now the big part, one of my favorite parts, is how do you do a TEDx speech? I received this question a lot of times, but there's 7 parts, and I'm going to walk you through all of them. So the first one, actually for 3, so is get familiar with the form, develop an idea, and make an outline and a script. So with the form of a TEDx speech is you showcase an idea in around 18 or less minutes. And if you do more and it's not a TED Talk in the future, just make sure to try to break it up with pauses to engage people activities like Scribbly or Kahoot. And as they said, short chunks plus one subject at a time equals a happy audience. And from a TEDx website, what really makes a good idea? There's a lot of things that can make a good idea, but different types could be taking evidence and observations to draw a larger conclusion. It could be a new idea, like something surprising, or it could challenge an old belief, or you could switch an old idea in a new light. A lot of people think like, do I need to be like a scientist in order to do a topic on the science? So if you need to be an expert, The expert, like a PhD wise, like no. An expert, yes, that means doing your research, checking facts, using reliable sources, and consulting other experts when necessary. Like I made a bioplastics TEDx talk, even even though I wasn't a bioplastics expert. I was still, like a high school student. And as I did do my facts and I did use my research, that's why it got approved as a good idea. So if your idea is ready, you can write 1 to 2 sentences, like your big idea, and ask me questions. Is my idea new? Like, has any, not necessarily like it's completely new, but is it something that is unique? Is it interesting to a broad audience? Is it factual or realistic? Can my call to action, CTA, how you're going to pull things off, can be executed? If there's a no, you might need to refine your idea and ask someone else about for advice. Third one, for making the outline. A lot of people did ask me this. So what is the best structure to a speech? There's not really an answer to that. There's a lot of different structures I saw from different speakers. But here was one structure that was recommended in the TEDx speaker guide that I received. So first one is definitely making our audience care with a relatable or interesting idea. Explain your idea clearly and with conviction. Describe your experience, call to action, so the how and why implementing your idea, and revealing the new reality. So how the audience will be affected if the idea happened. But no matter what your structure you go with, make sure that your main goal is to communicate an idea and not to tell a story or to evoke emotions. You can still evoke emotions and tell a story, but they're only a part of your speech and they don't end the speech themselves. So that means that that it can be a part of it, but can't be everything. And also your structure, it can have a feel, but it's not like completely cut. Like for example, this is what I'm going to talk about. You could just a lot of times if you just talk about the idea, even though you have a script, it can feel more free flowing and comfortable to the audience. And the other 4 is creating slides. You don't need to create slides for every single TEDx talk or every single presentation. So you do need to ask yourself if they clarify things for the audience. If it's yes, you do need to keep things simple. If it will distract or confuse the audience, you could just stick to your words. With making slides, here are just a couple quick tips. So just make sure there's a logical order. There's space for the room to breathe, like no text wall, like a huge paragraph. That's a big no-no. No one likes to read a text block. And with images and photos, it definitely helps people remember. Just make sure to not have too many. Graphs and infographics, I definitely recommend. Make sure that they're clear for people to understand. And with text, it does depend on the situation, but make sure to not have too much. And of course, make sure that people can see it from far away. You may have to change the sizes to make it bigger. And the hardest part, well, personal for me, is rehearsing. Okay, if you say your talk once in your head, that is not enough. You need to rehearse a lot. You need to rehearse in front of people you love, people you fear, in front of small groups, or even by yourself in the mirror, or with large groups, with peers, with people who aren't experts. So you need to repeat your speech over and over again. I find it helpful to memorize it by chunks. So for example, like per paragraph, like for example, these 2 days, I'm going to focus on memorizing this paragraph. And the next 2 days, I'll focus on memorizing this paragraph. But one thing I want to point out is not be way too over-rehearsed. So sounding unnatural. So talk as if you're chatting with another friend. And whenever you receive criticism from another person, like don't take it personally, but say that, oh, okay, I'll work on that and keep on going. And of course, quick things, instead memorizing chunks, definitely timing yourself to see you have enough time. But I feel that if you have a timer in front of you all the time, it gives me anxiety about if I'm going to finish the speech or not. And truthfully, if you do go over time, I once went overtime a little bit. They're still okay with it as long as it's a little bit over 18. And the audience doesn't mind either. Like, it's not like they're saying, okay, 18 minutes up, I'm going to kick you off the stage. That will never happen. So you don't need to worry about that. The first, definitely last one is practicing standing still and moving from time to time. So practicing moving across the stage or using your space. And when the big day comes, the last 2 steps are there. So you give your talk, you inhale, you exhale, you do it like you practice. And then when you're done, you can hear the applause, savor the glory, and you are done. And I want to give a recommendation to a book. If you do want to go a little bit more in public speaking in general, or just TEDx Talks, you could do the TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking by Chris Anderson. I really like this because it feels comprehensive and there's a lot of good information in there. The next part is to take action. So definitely try speaking up more in class, take advantage of class presentations, think of it as an opportunity for you to public speak, and searching a community for speaking opportunities. And for TEDx speaker opportunities, if you ever want to try doing a TEDx talk, definitely recommend it. If you go to TED.com and you search up TEDx events in your community, you try to see if they have any websites, and then you see speaker applications. If there's any speaker applications open, highly recommend you to apply. And that's a wrap for my presentation. I want to thank you so much for participating.